I need a linear actuator, 12-volt, minimum 100-pound force, fairly fast stroke speed. Clerk. Okay, what's the application? Me. Automated garden tool deployment system. Clerk raises eyebrow. Right, garden tools. It started subtly. A tire nudging over the property line here. The back bumper hanging over my side of the driveway apron there. Annoying? Yes. Worth starting a neighbor war over? Probably not. I'm generally a live and let live kind of guy. But then came the day I got home from a particularly brutal commute, fantasizing about pulling straight into my garage and collapsing, only to find Brenda's gleaming white crossover utility vehicle parked squarely, unapologetically, entirely in my driveway. Not just blocking the garage, blocking the whole damn thing. My spot, my concrete, my path to blessed vehicular shelter. I sat there in my car, blinkers still ticking uselessly, staring. Was this a mistake? Did she pull into the wrong driveway? Nope. There she was, hauling groceries out of her trunk, humming cheerfully, completely oblivious, or more likely, completely indifferent, to the fact that she had commandeered my property. I honked, politely, just a little beep-beep. Brenda glanced over, waved vaguely, and continued unloading organic kale and artisanal cheese into her reusable bags. Okay, deep breaths, Mark. Maybe she didn't realize. I got out, walked over. Brenda? Oh, hi, Mark, she chirped, balancing a bag of quinoa on her hip. Just grabbing the groceries. Yeah, I see that, I said, trying to keep the edge out of my voice. Thing is, you're kind of in my driveway. She looked at her car, then at my driveway, as if noticing the concept of property lines for the first time. Oh, am I? Whoops, silly me, be done in a sec. She gave another vague wave and disappeared inside her house, leaving her car firmly planted on my concrete. I stood there, feeling steam start to rise behind my ears. Just for a minute. Turned into 15, then 20. Finally, after I'd resorted to parking halfway down the block and lugging my own laptop bag back, she emerged, hopped in her SUV, gave me another cheerful wave, and backed out. No apology, no acknowledgement. Just entitlement. And that, my friends, was just the beginning. I decided to address it head-on, neighbor to neighbor. Catch her in a neutral moment. Be reasonable. A few days later, I saw her wrestling with her recycling bin. Perfect opportunity. Morning, Brenda, I started, adopting my most non-confrontational tone. Mark, she acknowledged, stuffing cardboard into the blue bin with unnecessary force. Hey, listen, I continued gently. About the other day, and, well, a few other times, could I ask you to please try not to park in my driveway? It blocks my access, and sometimes I need to get in or out quickly. She stopped stuffing and straightened up, putting her hands on her hips. Are you serious, Mark? Yeah, I said, slightly taken aback by her immediate defensiveness. It's my driveway, and I need to be able to use it. Oh, relax, she scoffed, waving a dismissive hand. It's only ever for a few minutes when I'm unloading things, or when the street parking is full. It's not hurting anything. Why do you have to make such a big deal out of everything? It's not a big deal, I countered, trying to stay calm. It's just my property, and it's inconvenient when you block it. Well, it's inconvenient when there's no parking on the street, she shot back. Honestly, some people are so territorial. It's just a patch of concrete. She slammed the lid of her recycling bin shut and marched back towards her house, leaving me standing there, speechless. Territorial? It was my territory. Clearly, politeness was not registering. My polite request had the approximate effect of a gnat bumping into a rhinoceros. If anything, the parking became more frequent, more brazen. Sometimes she'd block me in when my car was already in the driveway. Sometimes she'd leave it there for hours while visiting friends. It was like she was deliberately testing my patience, daring me to react. My frustration grew with each white SUV sighting. It became an obsession. I'd peek out the window before leaving the house. I'd feel a surge of adrenaline and rage when pulling onto my street, scanning for her car in my spot. It was consuming me. I tried leaving a note. Polite, laminated, tucked under her windshield wiper. Hi, Brenda. Please remember this is a private driveway and not available for parking. Thanks, Mark. The next day, I found the laminated note, crumpled on my lawn. I tried talking to her again, catching her as she pulled in yet again. This time I wasn't gentle. Brenda, seriously? We talked about this. She rolled down her window, sunglasses perched on her nose. Mark, honestly, give it a rest. I'll just be 5 minutes. It's not about 5 minutes. It's about respecting boundaries. You cannot keep parking here. And you cannot keep harassing me, she snapped back. I have just as much right to convenient parking as you do. She rolled up her window and flounced inside. Her right? To park? On my property? The sheer, unadulterated audacity was breathtaking. Reason had failed. Politeness had failed. Firmness had failed. Okay, time for passive deterrence. I went to the hardware store and bought a small, tasteful, metal, private driveway auto no parking sign. I mounted it conspicuously near the entrance. The very next day, Brenda parked her SUV directly in front of the sign, angled slightly so her bumper almost touched it. Message received. She didn't care. Next, I tried parking my own car defensively, right at the very end of the driveway, leaving no room for her to pull in. That afternoon, I came out to find her SUV parked directly behind mine on the street, completely blocking me in. It took 3 honks and 5 minutes of waiting before she emerged, looking annoyed at me for inconveniencing her. Cones? A chain? I knew deep down she'd just move them. They were flimsy suggestions, and Brenda dealt only in absolutes, primarily her absolute right to do whatever she wanted. I called my buddy Dave, mostly to vent. Dave is a programmer, deeply cynical, and possesses a healthy disregard for social niceties. Dude, she parked me in again, I raged into the phone. Right behind my car, after I put up a sign. Tow her, Dave said simply. What? Call a tow truck, private property impound, hit her where it hurts, the wallet and the inconvenience. I considered it. It was the logical, legal recourse. But the thought of the inevitable confrontation, the screaming match when the tow truck arrived, the potential for her to retaliate in some other annoying way. It felt messy, and somehow unsatisfying. Towing felt like outsourcing the problem. My problem with Brenda felt personal. I don't know, man, I sighed. Towing feels like such a hassle, and it doesn't guarantee she'll stop. So what are you gonna do? Dave asked. Let her keep walking all over you? No, I said slowly, staring out the window at my violated driveway. No, I think I need a more permanent solution. Something that sends a clearer message. Oh, Dave said. I know that tone. What are you thinking, Mark? Landmines? Moat with crocodiles? Something like that, I muttered. Something pointy. That night, fueled by frustration and cheap whiskey, I fell down an internet rabbit hole. Stop neighbor parking driveway. Extreme parking deterrence. Driveway security. I saw articles about legal battles, neighborhood disputes escalating to absurdity. I saw ads for fancy automated bollards. Way too expensive. I saw forum posts suggesting everything from sprinklers aimed at the driver's side window to strategically placed dog poop. And then, I saw it. A grainy photo on some obscure security blog. A picture of a retractable spike strip, the kind used at rental car exits or secure facility entrances, designed to shred tires if you go the wrong way. An idea, cold and sharp and deeply, deeply inappropriate, lodged itself in my brain. Spike strip, retractable, motion activated. Right there, at the entrance to my driveway. My heart started pounding. It was insane. Completely illegal, probably. Dangerous, definitely. But the image... Brenda's smug face turning to shock as her precious SUV tires hissed into oblivion. It was intoxicating. Could I even do it? Could you buy something like that? Probably not for residential use, but maybe I could build it. I work with software. I understand logic boards, sensors. Maybe it wasn't impossible? The internal debate raged. Responsible Mark. This is crazy. Vandalism, assault possibly, lawsuits, jail time. Fed up. Mark. She started it. She ignores signs. She ignores requests. She disrespects property. What else is left? This isn't violence. It's aggressive property defense. A very pointy welcome mat. Responsible Mark. You could hurt someone. What if a kid runs over it? Fed up Mark. It'll be recessed. Only activate when a car drives over the sensor entering the driveway, and only my driveway. It's targeted. Responsible Mark. This is the plot of a bad action movie. Fed up Mark. Maybe bad action movies have good ideas sometimes. Think of the sweet, sweet sound of deflating entitlement. Fed up Mark was winning, decisively. The next few weeks became Project Puncture-Proof. My evenings were spent not debugging code, but researching actuators, infrared sensors, metal fabrication, and the questionable legality of driveway booby traps. Verdict: highly illegal, do not recommend. Buying a ready-made system was out. Building it myself was the only way. The plan formed: detection. A discrete infrared beam sensor across the driveway entrance, positioned low to the ground. When the beam is broken by an incoming car. Activation. A powerful 12-volt linear actuator, like for opening heavy gates or moving robotics, connected to the sensor via a simple relay circuit. Mechanism: a hinged metal plate, maybe 4 feet wide, recessed into a shallow trench cut across the driveway entrance. The actuator would push this plate up. The business end. This was tricky. Real spike strips were designed for one-way traffic. I needed something that popped up. I found online suppliers selling replacement security spikes. Basically just sharpened, heavy-gauge steel rods about 3-4 inches long. Perfect. I ordered 2 dozen, claiming they were for an art project. I also bought some heavy steel channel from a local metal shop, making a very sturdy, boot scraper, I mumbled. Concealment. The mechanism needed to sit flush with the driveway, maybe disguised with asphalt patch or sealant to look like a repair or drain cover. Sourcing the parts was an adventure in awkward conversations. At the electronics supply store, I need a linear actuator, 12-volt, minimum 100-pound force, fairly fast stroke speed. Clerk. Okay, what's the application? Me. Automated garden tool deployment system. Clerk. Raises eyebrow. Right, garden tools. Ordering the spikes online, website chat. Can I help you with your order for 24 security road spikes? Me. Yes, just confirming shipping. Chat. Certainly. May I ask the intended use for these replacement spikes, sir? For security barrier repair? Me. Yes. Repairing a very small security barrier. For squirrels. Chat. Okay then. Talking to Dave. Me. Okay, found the actuator. Now I need to figure out the wiring for the IR sensor relay. Dave. Mark, I'm begging you, don't do this. This is how people end up on Neighbors from Hell documentaries. Me. Relax, it's just a prototype. A thought experiment. Dave. Does your thought experiment involve cutting up your driveway and installing tire shredding devices? Me. Possibly. Dave. Sighs. Fine. Send me the schematic for the relay, but I'm telling you, this is a terrible, terrible idea. Terrible idea or not, I was committed. The following weekend, Operation Puncture Proof commenced under the guise of driveway repair. I rented a heavy-duty concrete saw, a terrifying machine that vibrated my fillings loose. Measuring carefully, I cut a shallow channel, about 6 inches wide and 4 feet long, across the entrance of my driveway, just inside the property line. Neighbors probably thought I was installing drainage. Little did they know. Then came the messy part, chiseling out the concrete, digging a shallow trench. I built the hinged mechanism in my garage, welding the steel channel to heavy hinges, mounting the sharpened spikes onto the top edge of the channel so they'd point upwards when the plate flipped up. It looked menacing. Medieval, almost. Fitting the mechanism into the trench was tricky. I mounted the linear actuator underneath, protected by a makeshift waterproof housing. Wiring was next. I ran low-voltage wire under the lawn edge back to the garage, where I set up the power supply, the relay, and the IR sensor receiver. The IR emitter went on the other side of the driveway, disguised near a sprinkler head. Dave, despite his protests, couldn't resist the technical challenge and came over to help troubleshoot the wiring. "You realize," he muttered, stripping wires, "that if this thing accidentally triggers on the mailman's truck, we're both going to federal prison? It's calibrated for car-sized objects moving at low speed entering the driveway," I assured him, probably unconvincingly. "Totally safe." We tested it. I blocked the IR beam with a piece of cardboard. Click. The actuator hummed. Thwack! The metal plate, armed with its row of gleaming spikes, flipped up with surprising speed and force, stopping rigidly upright. It was terrifyingly effective. We tested the retraction. Another click, and the plate slammed back down into its recess. The final step was concealment. I carefully filled the gaps around the mechanism with asphalt patch, smoothing it over, trying to make it look like a routine repair seam. Unless you knew exactly what to look for, it was almost invisible. Almost. The driveway was repaired. The trap was set. The next few days were a masterclass in barely contained anxiety. Every time I heard a car slow down on our street, my stomach clenched. I found myself constantly peeking out the window, checking the driveway entrance, making sure the sensor lights were behaving. Was it too sensitive? Not sensitive enough? What if a cat triggered it? I'd tried to calibrate it for larger objects, but who knew? Sleep wasn't great. I had visions of shredded tires, screaming neighbors, flashing police lights. Was this really worth it? Was I becoming the neighborhood villain? Then, I'd picture Brenda's SUV, parked yet again with impunity in my spot. I'd remember her dismissive wave, her entitled attitude, and my resolve would harden like cheap concrete. She'd been warned. She'd been asked. She'd chosen to ignore boundaries. Actions meet consequences. Pointy, tire-deflating consequences. I debated putting up a warning sign. Something subtle. Private property. Severe tire damage imminent. But where was the fun in that? Besides, she ignored the last sign. No, the element of surprise was crucial to the, deterrent effect. Dave texted me. "Any victims yet, or just your sanity?" I texted back. "All quiet on the Western Front, trap is baited." Dave. "You're nuts? Call me from jail." It happened on a Thursday afternoon. I was on a tedious conference call, half listening, half staring out my office window overlooking the street. Street parking was packed, garbage day maybe. And then I saw it. The white whale. Brenda's SUV cruising slowly down the block. My heart leaped into my throat. This was it. She passed her own house, clearly finding no convenient spot. Her eyes scanned the street. They landed on my driveway. Empty. Inviting. Irresistible to her. I saw her check her mirrors, flick on her turn signal. She wasn't even going to hesitate. Years of getting away with it had made her bold. She swung the wheel, aiming the nose of her precious CUV directly towards the entrance of my driveway. My hand hovered over the mute button on my conference call. My breath caught in my chest. Time seemed to slow down. It happened exactly as designed. The front bumper cleared the curb. The front passenger tire rolled smoothly over the disguised sensor line. Click. The faint sound of the relay in my garage. Whir. The almost inaudible hum of the actuator. Thwack! The loud, sharp sound of the spike plate flipping up from its recess. And then the sound I'd been dreaming of, dreading for weeks. Psst. A sudden, violent, unmistakable rush of escaping air, followed immediately by a second one as the driver's side tire met the same fate. Brenda's SUV, which had been rolling forward at maybe 5 miles per hour, lurched violently downwards at the front, stopping dead with a sickening thump as the rims hit the pavement. The front end was dipped low, the back end slightly elevated. The row of gleaming metal spikes was clearly visible, nestled firmly against her now flat front tires. Silence for about 3 seconds. Brenda sat frozen in the driver's seat for a moment, stunned. Then confusion flickered across her face. She probably thought she'd hit a massive pothole. She tried to inch the car forward. Scrape. Metal on asphalt. She killed the engine, flung open her door, and stepped out. She looked down at her front passenger tire. Flat. Completely, utterly flat. She walked around the front of the car. Driver's side tire? Also flat. Then her eyes fell upon the metal teeth protruding from my driveway, nestled against her rims. Her expression shifted from confusion to disbelief, then to a shade of apoplectic rage I had previously only seen in cartoons. Millie! The shriek echoed through the quiet afternoon air, startling birds and probably causing dogs blocks away to howl. It was less a name, more a primal scream of fury. She stormed towards my house, leaving her wounded SUV listing awkwardly in my driveway entrance. Neighbors, drawn by the commotion, the thwack, the hiss, the screech started cautiously emerging onto their porches. Mrs. Gable already had her phone out. Of course she did. Brenda didn't knock. She hammered on my door with both fists, rattling the still forest green "thank you very much" paint. Bang, 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 bang! Open up, you maniac, you psychopath! Look what you did to my car! I'll sue you! I'll have you arrested! I'll key your mailbox. I took a deep breath, smoothed my shirt, and opened the door, adopting an expression of mild surprise. Brenda, what's all the shouting about? Having car trouble? Her face was inches from mine, practically vibrating with rage. Car trouble? You! You booby-trapped your driveway. You destroyed my tires. There are spikes, Mark, actual spikes. Spikes? I feigned confusion, peering past her towards her crippled SUV. Good heavens. Are those tire deflation devices? Like they have at airports? How on earth did those get there? Must be faulty city equipment. Don't you lie to me! She screamed, pointing a trembling finger. This was you, because I parked in your precious driveway, you absolute lunatic. Now, Brenda, I said, dropping the pretense slightly. I seem to recall asking you, politely, multiple times, not to park on my private property. I even put up a sign. Some might call this predictable consequences. Predictable? You put spikes in the ground. That's illegal. That's terrorism. She whipped out her phone. I'm calling 911. Predictably, Officers Davies and Rodriguez arrived. They looked at the SUV, the spikes, the furious Brenda, the gathering neighbors, and me. Officer Davies let out a long, slow sigh that seemed to carry the weight of all suburban disputes. Okay, he said. his voice dangerously calm. "Talk to me." Slowly. Brenda launched into her tirade again. Spikes, tires, attempted murder, property values. I calmly explained that after repeated warnings about trespassing were ignored, I had installed a property protection device, clearly visible, a blatant lie, on my private driveway entrance. "Sir," Officer Rodriguez said, turning to me, his expression unreadable. "Are you confirming you intentionally installed a device designed to damage vehicles entering your driveway?" "I installed a device designed to deter unauthorized vehicles from entering my private property after repeated trespasses," I corrected carefully. "Any damage incurred is an unfortunate consequence of ignoring clearly demarcated property lines." "Uh-huh," Officer Davies said flatly. He walked over and examined the spike strip. "This looks like a commercial-grade spike strip, sir, or something very much like it. Installing something like this on a residential property, especially without clear warning, is almost certainly illegal. It's reckless endangerment, potential vandalism charges." "But she was trespassing," I protested. "That doesn't give you the right to set booby traps, Mr. Miller," Davies said sternly. "We could cite you right now, possibly arrest you." They took statements from everyone. They informed Brenda she could press charges for property damage. They informed me I could face charges for the device. They told me in no uncertain terms to disable and remove the spike strip immediately. They called a tow truck for Brenda's SUV, at her expense, thankfully. The whole scene was deeply unpleasant, yet tinged with a dark, satisfying undercurrent. The immediate aftermath was messy. Under the watchful eyes of Officers Davies and Rodriguez, I had to get my tools and disable the actuator, then pry the spike strip mechanism out of my driveway, leaving an ugly trench. The tow truck hauled away Brenda's SUV, its front tires shredded. Brenda stood watching, her arms crossed, promising lawsuits and eternal damnation. Lawyer letters did indeed follow. Brenda wanted compensation for 2 new tires, an alignment, towing fees, and a hefty sum for emotional distress. My hastily consulted lawyer advised settling quickly to avoid potential criminal charges related to the spike strip, which the police report had documented thoroughly. So I ended up paying for Brenda's tires, a bitter pill to swallow. The neighborhood buzzed for weeks. I was officially spike strip guy. Some neighbors avoided eye contact entirely. Others gave me looks that were a mixture of fear and grudging respect. Mr. Henderson actually gave me a slow nod one morning, which was deeply unsettling. Dave called, laughing. "Told you not to call me from jail, but damn, that took guts. Stupid illegal guts, but guts." So, where are we now? The trench in my driveway is filled with a slightly mismatched patch of concrete. My wallet is considerably lighter thanks to Brenda's new Michelins and my lawyer's retainer fee. Brenda and I communicate exclusively through icy glares that could freeze boiling water. If our paths cross on the sidewalk, we both abruptly develop a deep interest in cracks in the pavement or distant cloud formations. But here's the thing. Brenda has not parked in my driveway since the puncturing. Not once. Not even a tire over the line. She parks down the street, sometimes blocks away, even when my driveway is wide open. Was it worth it? The stress, the cost, the potential legal trouble, the permanent neighborhood notoriety? By any sane, rational measure? Absolutely not. Installing a homemade spike strip is a terrible, dangerous, illegal idea, and I cannot recommend it. But, standing in my living room, looking out at my blessedly empty, gloriously accessible driveway, free from the tyranny of the white SUV, there's a tiny, dark, deeply satisfied part of my soul that whispers, "Yeah, kinda." Sometimes, the only way to deal with impenetrable entitlement is with a few well-placed, motion-activated points. Just maybe budget for new tires and a lawyer afterward,